Good morning, children. Today I am going to discuss with you about hormones of heart, kidney and gastrointestinal tract. And before that, I gave a homework for you children, that is the various endocrine glands, their structures, secretions, functions, everything. And I asked you to do as homework. Hope you have to complete, and nobody did not ask any doubt with me. So hope you could clear about it. And let me start with hormones of heart, kidney and gastrointestinal tract. Some tissues of the heart, kidney and gastrointestinal tract act as partial endocrine glands. You know children, the endocrine glands which we discussed above, that is pituitary, thyroid, parathyroid, adrenal, pancreas, thymus, testis, ovary, these are called permanent endocrine glands. It is always present in our body in all the times and functioning. But some of the endocrine glands which are functioning in part of the time in our life, and those endocrines are called as partial endocrine glands. Sometimes placenta during pregnancy act as endocrine gland and secrete some hormones essential for the pregnancy, and corpus luteum also act as endocrine gland for a temporary period. So those all called as partial endocrine glands. Like that, in heart, kidney, gastrointestinal tract also consist of endocrine gland which are partial endocrine glands, that is it function in part of the time. In the heart, cardiocytes on the atrial walls secrete an important peptide hormone called atrial natriuretic factor. About this we have discussed in the excretory system. When blood pressure is increased, this atrial natriuretic factor is secreted and causes dilation of blood vessels to reduce the blood pressure. This also I have discussed with you. So when blood pressure is increased, this during that time alone, the walls of the heart secrete a hormone called atrial natriuretic factors. These atrial natriuretic factors dilate the blood vessels. That means it make dilation in the blood vessels. Because of the dilation of blood vessels, the volume of the inside of blood vessel increase, and automatically the blood flow become normal and the blood pressure also become normal. Then next one is kidney. In kidneys, hormones such as renin, erythropoietin and calcitriol are secreted. Renin is secreted by juxtaglomerular cells. About this also I have discussed, which increases blood pressure when angiotensin is formed in the blood. Next, erythropoietin is also secreted by juxtaglomerular apparatus cells of the kidney and stimulate erythropoiesis, that is formation of RBC is called erythropoiesis in bone marrow. Next, calcitriol is secreted by bone marrow. Calcitriol is secreted by proximal tubule of nephron. It is an active form of vitamin D3 which promotes calcium and phosphorus absorption from intestine and accelerate bone formation. So these are the various hormones secreted by heart and kidney. Next we are going to discuss about the hormones secreted by gastrointestinal tract. Group of specialized endocrine cells present in the gastrointestinal tract. You know what is meant by gastrointestinal tract? Yes, of course, from mouth to anus it is called the gastrointestinal tract, and secrete hormones such as gastrin, cholecystokinin, secretin and gastric inhibitory peptides. Then gastrin act on the gastric glands and stimulate the secretion of HCl and pepsinogen. Then cholecystokinin is secreted by duodenum in response to the presence of fat and acid in the diet. It acts on the gallbladder to release bile into duodenum and stimulate the secretion of pancreatic enzyme and its discharge. Okay. So gastrin, which is a hormone which act on the gastric gland, you know very well where it is present. Gastric glands are located in the stomach which secrete the gastric juice. So this gastrin is a hormone, act on the gastric gland, stimulate the secretion of HCl and pepsinogen. And next one is cholecytokinin. It's secreted by duodenum, which is the initial part of the small intestine. In response to the presence of fat and acid in the diet. It acts on the gallbladder to release bile into the duodenum and stimulate the secretion of pancreatic enzyme and its discharge. And next one is secretin, which act on acini cells of pancreas. You know very well, pancreas is called as dual gland. The acini part is the acini part of pancreas involved in secretion of enzyme. This secretin stimulate the acini cells of pancreas to secrete bicarbonate ions and water to neutralize the acidity. And gastric inhibitory peptide inhibit the gastric secretion and motility. Next, hypo and hyperactivity of endocrine glands and related disorders. That means hypo means less secretion, hyper means more secretion. When the hormones of the endocrine glands secrete in normal level, it will maintain the homeostatic condition of our body. But at the same time, when its secretion is below its normal or above its normal, it leads to some disorders. When the hormone secreted below the normal level, it is called hyposecretion or hypoactivity, and if its secretion is more, it is called hyperactivity. The hypersecretion and hyposecretion of hormones leads to several disorders. Okay, let's see first dwarfism. Dwarfism is due to hyposecretion of growth hormone secreted by pituitary. In children, skeletal growth and sexual maturity is arrested. They attain a maximum height of 4 feet only. You could see the figure of dwarfism people here, children. Next one is gigantism. It is ultra to dwarfism. Okay. Gigantism is due to hypersecretion of growth hormone. When the growth hormone secretion is more, it leads to a disease called, not a disease, disorder is called gigantism in children. That's overgrowth of skeletal structure occurs. The person can grow up to 8 feet and visceral growth is not appropriate with that of limbs. And acromegaly is due to excessive secretion of growth hormone in adults. Overgrowth of hand bones, feet bones, jaw bones, malfunctioning of gonads, enlargement of viscera, tongue, lungs, heart, liver, spleen, endocrine glands like thyroid, adrenal, etc. are some of the symptoms of acromegaly. See, you could see the structure of gigantism here, children, and acromegaly also you can see here. In infants, hypothyroidism, that is less secretion of thyroxine hormone, causes cretinism. A cretin shows retarded skeletal growth, absence of sexual maturity, retarded mental ability, thick wrinkled skin, protruded enlarged tongue, bloated face, thick and short limbs occurs. The other symptoms are low BMR, slow pulse rate, subnormal body temperature and elevated blood cholesterol level are the symptoms of cretinism, which is caused by less secretion of thyroid in children. The next one is hyposecretion of thyroid in adult, which leads to myxedema. It is otherwise called as Gall's disease. This disease is characterized by decreased mental activity. Usually thyroid hormone maintain the basal metabolic rate, physical activity, mental activity all. When its secretion become lower than the normal secretion and its basal metabolic rate also decreased, and memory loss, slowness of movement, speech and general weakness of body, dry skin, scar hair, puffy appearance, disturbed sexual function, low BMR, poor appetite and subnormal body temperature. Next, Graves' disease, also called as thyrotoxicosis or exophthalmic goiter. This disease is caused due to hypersecretion of thyroid gland. It is characterized by enlargement of thyroid gland, increased BMR, that is 50% to 100% basal metabolic rate will be increased, elevated respiratory and excretory rate. When BMR increased, automatically respiratory excretory rates become increased, heartbeat increased, BP increased, body temperature increased. and protrusion of eyeball. You could see the figure, children. See, the eye become protruded, that is, it become out, and this condition is called protrusion of eyeball, and this condition is called exophthalmic. Exo means outside, opthal means eye, and this condition is called exophthalmic condition, and weakness of eye muscles and weight loss are the symptoms of this disease. Next one is simple goiter, is also known as endemic goiter. It's caused due to hyposecretion of thyroxine. When the thyroxine hormone secretion become low, and it leads to a disease called simple goiter or endemic goiter. The symptoms include enlargement of thyroid gland, fallen serum thyroxine level, increased thyroid stimulating hormone secretion. Okay, so you can see here, children, in the throat region the thyroid gland become enlarged, and this condition is called simple goiter or endemic goiter. And next disease, tetany, is caused due to the hyposecretion of parathyroid hormone. Due to hyposecretion of parathyroid hormone, serum calcium level decreased, that is, calcium in the blood level become low. That condition is called hypocalcemia. As a result, serum phosphate level increase. When calcium level become low, phosphate level automatically will be increased. Calcium and phosphate excretion level decreases. So generalized convulsions, locking of jaws, increased heartbeat rate, increased body temperature, muscular spasm are the major symptoms of tetany. And hyperparathyroidism is caused by excess parathyroid hormone in blood. What's the conditions? Demineralization of bone, cyst formation, softening of bone. When the bone lost its calcium, it automatically become soft. Loss of muscle tone, general weakness, renal disorders are the symptoms of hyperparathyroidism. Next, Addison's disease, which is caused due to hyposecretion of glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids from the adrenal cortex. Muscular weakness, low BP, loss of appetite, vomiting, hyperpigmentation of skin, low metabolic rate, subnormal temperature, reduced blood volume, weight loss are the symptoms that occur in Addison's disease. Reduced aldosterone secretion increases urinary excretion of sodium chloride and water and decrease the potassium excretion, leading to dehydration. And next one is Cushing's syndrome, is caused due to excess secretion of cortisol. Obesity of the face and trunk, redness of the face, hand, feet, thin skin, excessive hair growth, loss of minerals from bone that leads to osteoporosis, and systolic hypertension. Systolic hypertension means what? Systolic pressure will be increased, or the features of Cushing's syndrome. Suppression of sexual functions like atrophy of gonads, that means the gonads growth will not be takes place perfectly, are the other symptoms of Cushing's syndrome. And next one is hypoglycemia, which is due to increased secretion of insulin, thereby blood glucose level decreases. You know, children, insulin is a hormone which convert the excess glucose in the blood into glycogen and stored in the liver and muscle. This is basic thing you know very well. When the secretion of insulin will be more and it leads to hypoglycemia. That means when the secretion of insulin takes place more, increased insulin convert the increased level of glucose into glycogen. So automatically the glucose level in the blood become low, and this condition is called hypoglycemia, which is due to the increased secretion of insulin, thereby blood glucose level decreases. In this disorder, blood glucose level lowers than normal fasting index. Then increased heartbeat, weakness, nervousness, headache, confusion, lack of coordination, slurred speech, serious brain defects like epilepsy and coma occurs. The normal blood glucose level are given here, children. Please prepare yourself. Next, hyperglycemia. Hypoglycemia is due to excessive secretion of insulin. Here hyperglycemia, which is due to less secretion of insulin. When the insulin secretion is not enough to conversion of excess glucose into glycogen, the excess glucose are stayed in the blood and blood is sent it to the kidney for its filtration, but kidney also reabsorb certain level of glucose only, and the rest of the glucose will be eliminated through the urine, and this condition is called diabetic mellitus. Okay, hyperglycemia, otherwise known as diabetes mellitus, it is caused due to reduced secretion of insulin. As the result, blood glucose level is elevated. That means the level of blood glucose will be increased in the blood. Diabetes mellitus is of two types, type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is also known as insulin dependent diabetes, caused by the lack of insulin secretion due to illness or viral infection. So, due to some disease or due to some viral infection, sometimes the insulin secretions become low in our blood and it leads to diabetes. This is what type 1 diabetes, and about it is also called as insulin dependent diabetes. And type 2 diabetes is also known as non-insulin dependent diabetes, caused due to reduced sensitivity to insulin, often called as insulin resistance. So, that means insulin secretion is there but its function become less, like that. Symptoms of diabetes includes polyuria, that is excessive urination, polyphagia, excessive intake of food, polydipsia, excessive consumption of liquid due to thirst. Ketosis, that is breakdown of fat into glucose, result in accumulation of ketone bodies in blood. Gluconeogenesis, that is conversion of non-carbohydrates from form like amino acid and fat into glucose, also occur in diabetes. Then diabetes insipidus which is caused due to hyposecretion of vasopressin. About this you know very well, we have discussed in the chapter excretion itself, children. So, diabetes insipidus is caused due to hyposecretion of vasopressin from neurohypopiesis. The symptoms include frequent urination, that is polyuria, and excessive consumption of liquids due to thirst. And mechanism of hormone action. Hormones circulate in blood but their concentration can increase or decrease based on the requirement of body only. So, this is controlled by feedback mechanism. Already I have discussed with you about this mechanism, children. Actually hormones are not secreted always. Whenever necessary whenever needed by the body, it will secrete. If it is not needed in that particular target organ, it stops its secretion. How this mechanism of hormone action has taken place in our body, we are going to discuss under this topic. Okay. So, hormones circulate in the blood, yes, but their concentration can increase or decrease based on the requirement of the body. If the hormone level needed, then its secretion will be more. If it is not necessary, its secretion will be less or become decrease. This is controlled by feedback mechanism. Actually, this is called feedback mechanism. This mechanism controls the secretion of endocrine glands by stimulating the hypothalamus, pituitary, or both. So, how the mechanism are controlled? This mechanism controls the secretion of endocrine glands by stimulating the hypothalamus, pituitary, or both, which in turn governs the secretion of a particular hormone. In positive feedback, the secretion of the hormone increases, whereas in negative feedback, further secretion of hormone slows down. There are two types of feedback. One is positive feedback, another one is negative feedback. In positive feedback, the secretion of the hormone increases, whereas in negative feedback, secretion of hormone slows down. Then feedback mechanism are the key factor for maintaining hormones in our body. Then hormones are classified into three major groups as peptide hormones, steroid hormone, amino acid derived hormones based on their chemical structure. Peptide hormones cannot cross the phospholipid cell membrane and bind to the receptor on the exterior cell surface. They are transported to the Golgi, which is the site of modification, and it acts as a first messenger in the cell. And hormones on binding to their receptors do not enter the target cell but generate the production of second messengers such as cyclic AMP, which in turn regulates cellular metabolism. This is catalyzed by the enzyme adenylate cyclase. What they are trying to say here, children, actually hormones are three types, isn't it? Some hormones are peptides, some hormones are steroids, some hormones are derived from amino acids. These peptide hormones cannot cross the phospholipid cell membrane because peptides are proteinous in nature. This protein substance cannot pass into the lipid cell membrane. So, what happened? You can see here, children, cell membrane. You could see the receptor over the cell membrane. The hormones can bind with the steroid hormone, bind with the receptor and enter into the cytoplasm. Inside the cytoplasm, these hormones are converted into second messenger by an enzyme called adenylate cyclase. Okay. This enzyme convert the primary messenger into the secondary messenger. So, hormones on binding to their receptors do not enter the target cell but generate the production of second messenger. This hormone which is bind over the surface of the receptors will not be enter into the cell. Instead, it generate a second messenger such as cyclic AMP, which in turn this cyclic AMP regulate the cellular metabolism. This process can be catalyzed by enzyme adenylate cyclase. The interaction between the hormone at the surface and the effect brought out by the CAMP within the cell is known as signaling cascade. At each step there is a possibility of amplification. One hormone molecule may bind to multiple receptor molecule before it is degraded. If one hormone can be bind to the multiple receptors molecule before it is degraded, and each receptor may activate several adenylate cyclases, each of which make much CAMP. So, here receptors may activate the several adenylate cyclases, each of which make CAMP, and thus there is more signal after each step. The action of CAMP are terminated by phosphodiesterases, which also an enzyme, and the effect of peptide hormone like insulin, glucagon, somatotropin are usually short lived because they work through second messenger system. Steroid hormones can easily cross the cell membrane and bind to their receptors, which are intracellular or intranuclear. Upon binding to the receptor, they pair up with another receptor hormone complex. This dimer can then bind to DNA and alter its transcription. The effect of steroid hormones such as aldosterone, estrogen, FSH are long lived as they alter the amount of mRNA and protein in a cell. So, name the hormones which have long life: aldosterone, estrogen, FSH, and whether it may be proteinous nature or steroid nature. And some amino acid derived hormones are derived from one or two amino acids with a few additional modification. Thyroid hormone is synthesized from amino acid tyrosine and includes the addition of several iodine atoms. So, tyrosine and iodine atom combined together form the hormone thyroxine. Epinephrine, an amino acid derivative, may function through second messenger system like peptide hormones, or they may actually enter the cell and function like steroid hormones. Avoid use of steroid component. Actually, some of the hormones are made up of steroid. Okay. So, sometimes we are in the situation to take a steroid hormones, but it is not advisable to take in all cases. In case of emergency, we can take steroid hormones, but all the times we should not take. The abuse of anabolic steroid can cause serious health problems like high BP, heart diseases, liver damage, cancer, stroke and blood clots. Other side effects also can be caused by steroid, which include nausea, vomiting, ligaments and tendon injuries, headache, joint pain, muscle cramps, diarrhea, sleep problems, etc. So it is not advisable to take steroid components often to our health. So to our body it causes some problem in our body. Mechanism of steroid action is given in the figure. Please refer to it, children. And I completed this lesson. Suppose in case if you have any doubt, please clarify with me. And the homework will be this lesson. Already I have marked and give to a deleted portion. Suppose if you did not mark the deleted portion in your book, already I sent PDF of deleted portion in our group. Refer that and cut the deleted portion of this year, and according to that you have to learn the book back questions. புரியுதாமா? புக் பேக் கொஸ்டின்ஸ் டெலிட்டட் போர்ஷனில் இருக்கக்கூடிய கொஸ்டின்ஸை தவிர்த்து மற்ற புக் பேக் கொஸ்டின்ஸ் எல்லாமே நீங்கள் படிச்சிருங்க. அதுதான் இன்றைக்கோட ஹோம்ஒர்க். ஓகே, ஸோ டோன்ட் வேஸ்ட் யுவர் டைம், கம்ப்ளீட் யுவர் ஹோம்ஒர்க் தென் அண்ட் தேர். ஓகே, பை.